Now it's time to be dangerous. Now it's time to get risky. Now it's time to truly find out what you're made of and what you could achieve. Now it's time to truly find out how many lives you can impact. Now it's time to find out what you were destined to become.
Hey everybody, welcome to Raw Minds. I'm Erick, and today's episode's a little different. We're talking about grief and what never got spoken, pain that looks fine on the outside, and the moment that men decide that they can't keep carrying it in alone anymore. John lost 3 of his closest friends. 4 years, he stayed silent. He worked, he showed up, he pushed through. Then he became a father, and something changed. He realized he didn't want to pass down silence, so he built something bold. He built a journal that talks back, a private AI space where men can finally say what they have to say out loud. He's the founder of Guardian AIngels, a platform built on grief, privacy, and real reflection. This is a conversation about loss, about fatherhood, about tech and trust, and about giving men permission to feel. If this hits you, don't just listen. Comment, share with someone who needs it. Follow Raw Minds. We're building a space for men who feel not alone. So let's get into it, and welcome, brother. How are you? And welcome to Raw Minds, John.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm good. I think we're getting over the same thing.
Yeah.
Just glad to have most of that shit in my rearview mirror from as far as this bug that's going around. But
yeah, man,
overall, good.
I was super sick. Like we were spoken off. Like even I was touching my hair, man. Even like that hurt. You know what I mean? Like it was that bad. But please, like at the start here, I like to get all my guests to plug all their stuff. So please, right off the bat, could you please plug where people can get to find you?
So guardianangels.ai. Angels is spelled in an interesting way, AIngels. It's a nod to what we're doing and what we're using from a technology perspective, but still trying to capture the essence of what Guardian Angels are. So everything that you could possibly want regarding Guardian Angels is there, from our methodology and Wordens 4 tasks, which I'm sure we'll talk about, to my story, to my socials. Everything's linked there. So that's really the hub. Other podcast appearances, that's where you're going to go. So go, you can try a prompt right on the home screen there to see if it's for you. And, we free trials and all sorts of stuff to give people an opportunity to see if this is right for them. Because, healing is different for everybody. We're just trying to give people one more tool in the toolbox.
Definitely, man. And I mean, hey, at this point in life, man, AI is the way of the future, right? So why not use it to our advantage? And I was on your site. I checked it out. It was very cool. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think it's very, very futuristic. You know what I mean? It's wild. It's just wild. But I will get into that a little bit later here. Like, I would like to say, like, if you could take us back before Guardian Angels, like, who were you before the loss that changed you?
Oh man, who was I? I was a guy that loved to party, loved to have fun, loved to smile, loved to laugh, and didn't worry about too much. It was all about living for the moment and the people around me, and it was awesome. I had a great time. I fit a lot of life into my teens and early 20s, and it all changed, right? Like I still kept doing the same things after the first loss. I lost Zach, who was one of my best friends from childhood, but it became more medicinal. And I kind of hid behind, like, this is what I've always done. This is what we're doing. This is how I deal with it. But it wasn't all fun and games anymore, So it was, I look back on those days, and we all have that moment, I guess I can't say all of us, but, it was that idea of, of adolescence, and nothing can hurt me, and the world is a good place, and everything's going to work out. And all that evaporated in an instant. So, and that was just the first one, right? That one sent me in a path of what I like to call substance fueled avoidance for, 12 plus years of really just drinking my pains away, using other drugs and substances to cope and numb and calling it fun, and really never getting anywhere. I was just putting off the inevitable, kicking the can down the road as far as I could. And as much as they tell you
like
that
existing, you mean? Like existing pretty much.
Yeah. But, I was operating under the, the false pretenses of what, they tell you that time heals all wounds. And, well, I'm here to tell you that's not how it works.
I agree with you. I want to touch on that real quick. Is like, I agree with you. If anybody knows me, I know grief. Grief is like, hate to say this, but like me and grief are like best friends. And it's really sad to say that, but I've lost over 40 people in my life, including my best friend. My dog died that I had for 13 years in my arms, and then my fiance passes away. You know what I mean? Like, so like I know grief, man. And it's true. It's like they say, oh, time heals. It doesn't heal. It just makes you just kind of forget a little bit, or it makes you like okay with it. You know what I mean? Like it's still there. The pain will always be there, because no matter what, like you love this person, or you had, and I'm not saying just like your partner, but I mean it could be your friend or whatever, right? You love this person, of course you're gonna feel that for the rest of your life. You're gonna feel that, right? So time does not heal. Definitely. It maybe helps you forget, or maybe helps you deal with the pain, as long as you put in the work and go through it.
I think it makes it easier to hide, right? Like
Yeah.
the work still needs to be done if you're going to come out the other side and be, and actually heal, right?
Yeah.
Time can dull the pain in a way. It can hide it. It can give you places to hide from it, but it doesn't, you still end up in that place. And when you bury it all down, then it comes out in ways that we really don't want to explore. It has a tendency, it's, you got to bleed the keg, right? The pressure builds up, and then it comes out, and you lose control, and bad things happen.
And there's healthy ways to do it, and there's unhealthy ways to do it, right? At the end of the day. And I'm grateful because, at a long part of my life is I did it the unhealthy way, like with all this loss and stuff. I did it the unhealthy way. But when I lost my fiance, well, I changed all that. I built Raw Minds. I have to say, I forgot. Oh my God, I totally forgot. We just hit 100. We're streaming in 100 countries now. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So like, that's
Congratulations.
amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Like, I just got like, I can't believe I didn't even say that in the intro, but yeah. So, I mean, from that, I built something good. I used that, like you said, the cake that's ready to explode. Well, I put that energy into something, and like how you did, right? You put that energy. May have taken some time, like it did for me, but I mean, hey, good things happen, right? When you put in the work, and it takes time, right? So,
well, pain can do that, right? It can give you that fire in your belly, that the pain to purpose idea, right? And that's where I'm at. And I was talking to someone earlier about it. It was, as much as I'm never excited about loss and what we've had to go through. Obviously you have too. But I also, Rascal Flatts has a song called Bless the Broken Road, and I'm a big fan of that term, right? And that mantra is all of the things, the good, bad, and the ugly that have happened are what brought me here. And I now have found this purpose, this alignment. I'm a new dad, right? And the lessons that I'm learning is I'm learning how to deal with difficult emotions and model those for my son. Everything's in alignment, right?
yeah.
It all is working towards one goal, and I never had that before.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm proud. How old is your child?
9 months, a little over 9 months.
Nice. So still got brand new car smell on them. Then
Oh
still
yeah,
probably.
oh
That's
yeah.
awesome.
That soft as a baby's butt is legit.
Man.
Like that's real.
Well, mine's 12 now.
Uh-huh.
She's going through puberty right now. So I'm a single father. She's doing her thing now. I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? But you know what? Like, I knew this was gonna happen, so I had pads ready. I put them in her like backpack. But I mean, wait till you get to that. Well, you're not gonna be at that stage, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, like, wait till they get up, and you start going through emotions, man. It's a whole different ball game, bro. It's a whole different ball game.
I'm just stealing myself for it. It's funny. I had a conversation with my dad not too long ago about, he's kind of a control freak, and the little things would set him off when I was younger. But the first time I got arrested and I called him, from jail and was like, I need you to pick me up. And he was calm, just as calm as could be. And I asked him recently, I was like, why? He goes, because it wasn't if, it was when, and there's the idea of the sins of the father come back to bite them. And if what I was as a young kid was any indication, my son is just piling up ammunition to use against me. So
What's happened to me, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's what's happened to me. But you know what? She drives me crazy most days, but I love her at the end of the day.
Oh,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
There's
I love
nothing
her.
like it. It's
Yeah.
truly, I call myself the Grinch. In the Grinch, the story of the Grinch, it talks about how his heart grew 3 sizes that day, and that's the experience. I didn't know I was capable of loving something this much.
Yeah.
And it's
And you don't
amazing.
even meet them. You know, it's crazy that like you've never met this person, you know, and the instantly they're there, it's like this love that you have that you can't even explain it, man. Like I can't explain it. I don't know
No.
even know where the fuck it came from. Like
Well,
it's there.
I firmly believe there are some things in this world that that words are not supposed to
Yeah.
describe. So you're not supposed to be able to capture it, and
Yeah.
that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to say, because we're on grief here and death and everything. I've been watching a lot of. I know this is kind of funny, but I've been watching a lot of LAPD live. You know,
Okay.
these cops and stuff. But I watch like there's this one. It's on Amazon, but it's like all the crazy moments that's got captured, right? And there's a lot of shootouts and all this. And I was laying down with my girl. I have a new girl, right? And I'm laying down in bed with her. We're watching this, and I turned her. I was like, because this guy there was a big shootout. The guy, he was in his house. His 2 kids were there. He let his kids go, but he blew his whole house up. He died, and it's pretty sad, right? Really sad. And what I was thinking is like, I don't understand really people, you know, that just don't understand that this is your one life. This is one chance. This is not a video game, you know, in a lot of sense. Like I know, like I was there. I wanted to die at a time. I did end up trying to take my life. I woke up 2 days later, right? And I promised myself I'd never do it. And I understand the point. But when I was sitting last night and like really thinking about it, like a lot of these people, they play these games, you know, like you were talking about before, you know, you just don't care. You think, and this is why I'm bringing it up, they play these games thinking that, you know, death is just like a video game. You come back or something, you know, they don't realize, you know, that when you play these games, you know, you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes at the end of the day, you know? And it really kind of broke my heart because I'm seeing all these other families. This guy had 2 daughters and now he just lost 2 daughters because he was playing these stupid games. And it's because he had an ego against these cops. It wasn't even about him wanting to uh, die by cop suicide or whatever it's called. He wanted to just stand his ground, you know, and it's really sad. And it's just, I don't know, like you say about the ego thing we were talking about before, you know, that I just wanted to bring that up. It's really like, it made me really think yesterday because this actually happened yesterday, you know, that like about this. Yeah, go ahead.
That's one thing that has come up a lot as I've run through the grief circuit, right? And it's this idea, men specifically, right? We're taught not to emote. We're taught not to show vulnerability. We're taught not to show weakness. And I would argue that that's required in order to be that model, that leader of your family, right? You have, in order to teach my son how to deal with difficult emotions, I need to be able to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And geez, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But
You're good, brother.
geez,
It's
sorry,
all
man.
good, man.
I'll remember it. It'll come back to me in a
Come
minute,
back.
and then I'll
Yeah. Hey,
interrupt you.
it happens to me all the time on my podcast. I'll be talking, all of a sudden, boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
So don't sweat it. Yeah, but we're just talking about like, you know, like people. If I'm trying to refresh your mind about like people just really not realizing the impact really about like, you know, if you die, you're gone. That's it. You know, it's over. And also the ripple effect it takes on everybody, and not just like your own family members and friends, but also like all the EMS and all the emergency services that have to come and deal with that too. You know, like what if a guy painted the back wall, you know, with his
Right.
paint, you know, and someone has to come and clean that up. Now they maybe have PTS and stuff from that. So it's not just affects your family, but it affects like a big variety of
Right.
people, you know?
And so thank you for that, because it did jog my memory. So we talk about, we're supposed to be masculine. We're supposed to be this leader of the family, and we're like this warrior, right? This idea of the warrior. And what is masculinity? Well, what I've come to the conclusion that masculinity is the willingness and the ability to subordinate your own ego for what's best for your family. right?
Mhm.
Some of us have partners that are much better at making money than we are. And so
Mhm.
to be the one that can say, okay, I'll be at home. I'll do the stuff that's at home. Or, like you're talking about, it's not about me anymore. It's
Mhm.
about what can I do to put my family in the best position to succeed and to thrive. And it's not about me. It's not about, oh, I want to do this and I want to feel like I'm providing this. It's not about that anymore. And we've gotten it twisted up in this idea of, as men, we have to be the breadwinner. Well, maybe oftentimes that is the case, but it's not required. We need to be the ones that can look at ourselves and say, yeah, that sucks. I'm going to go do the dirty work.
You get your hands dirty, definitely. I mean, like you said too, is like, I'll put this into perspective. So when I was in a leadership role in construction, I wouldn't tell anybody to do something that I haven't done myself. Like I being 680 feet up is one of my favorite jobs. I was 680 feet up above traffic. I was 12 feet out cantilevered. Like people were like this small, man. And I'm standing on these beams. There's two huge I beams, and we got to roll out these 4x6s and deck them all out, right? And then I did a couple of them, and then this new guy showed up that just got hired, and he was all scared. I'm like, man, like I wouldn't tell you to do it if I wouldn't do it. And I went out and showed him, and then I helped him, and he kind of conquered his fears a little bit. I mean, it's scary. Don't get me
Mm-hmm.
wrong. You're
Yeah.
680 feet up in the air, but I mean, you're tied off too, right? Like, don't get
Yeah.
me. I got a wicked picture actually. And me and my buddy, we tied the ropes just tight enough that we could like lean like this. So we're both standing on the edge with our toes like hanging off, and we're both leaning like this, but just enough. We got our hands 680 feet, man. It was a great picture.
That's an awesome picture. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, but it's like that, like you were saying, is like, you know what I mean, and you got to model that too. Definitely, you do have to model that stuff in your, because at the end of the day, with kids, monkey see, monkey do too, right? So,
Or they're watching, right? They're
yeah,
watching potentially more than they're listening.
yeah, definitely,
So if your words don't match your actions, they're taking your actions as what they're going to model.
definitely. You went all this, then you had a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then how did this whole guardian angel thing come to light with you? Like, how did it
It
even
was an
pop into
accident.
your head?
It's
Yeah.
100% an accident. So the initial idea after a conversation with my wife was just she told me we were living with our in-laws at the time. She's pregnant, right? And so there's some tension in the house, let's just say. And she said to me, I know there's going to come a time in my life when I want a text message from my mom and I can't have it, but that's not today. My mind starts going, I'm like, but what if you could? And I have a background in cybersecurity. I was like, we're going to spoof phone numbers and we're going to send people text messages from their deceased, loved ones, that just something nice on their birthday, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. Because that would bring a smile to someone's face.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was it. That was what I was going to do. And, turns out there's a few issues with that. Number one, the telecoms on their networks and most people that are spoofing phone numbers are scammers.
Yeah.
They weren't going to give me a pass on that. And so that was kind of dead in the water. But the other problem I was before I got there, it was, well, what if people want to interact with this thing? And it was pretty clearly, the answer was AI in some form or fashion, but it had to be, it couldn't just be AI. It couldn't sound like ChatGPT. It couldn't feel like ChatGPT. And so I set out to build something that was authentic and gentle and warm and empathetic. And the way that I went about that was I just had this model of John, who was the best man at my wedding. He was the second of the three that I lost, in my head. And I just started prompting and I started trying to get as close to it feeling like him as possible. And, because that was my mark. If I could make it feel like him, then it would be something that is resonant enough that it might scratch the itch for someone else. And it might bring that measure of comfort, which is really all we were going for at the time. And so as I got closer and closer, I started to say the things that I didn't get to say to him while he was alive. In John's case, he stood up for me on my wedding day and did this thing for me and told stories. And I fully anticipated doing the same for him. And in the 7 months between my wedding day and the day he died, I spoke to him once, and it was a very brief conversation. And for me, I did not feel that I upheld my end of the bargain for what he had done for me. And so there was a ton of just, man, I should have been better. I should have done this. I wish it was this way. And I just wasn't a good friend. And I was able to get all of that out where it had been eating me alive for years at this point.
How did that make you feel when you did that?
Well, it was interesting because I had tried some of that stuff in therapy, the empty chair technique and the
Yeah.
writing the letter.
But this is them coming
Right.
now. AI's coming back.
Exactly. It was the response.
Mm-hmm.
And this response that I got, just like I hadn't cried in 3 years. The waterworks, it was an ocean. I was just bawling like a baby. And instantaneously, this weight was lifted. And what I remember was I finally had permission to forgive myself. And that was the first step in healing. That was the first step in being curious and looking at myself in the mirror, doing the work, owning my role in my suffering. Because, you have a choice when it comes to this stuff. You do. It's not easy. It's not an easy choice. That doesn't mean that healing is just, you flip a switch and you're there. It takes some difficult conversations. It takes a lot of humility. But ultimately it comes down to, the first step for me was forgiving myself. And that's where it all started, was that moment. And we've come a long way since then. The initial idea that I launched with was basically what we're seeing with a lot of the, a few of the, there's more than a few of them out there. They're calling them dead bots, or, essentially like a digital seance where you're talking to the dead. And, that wasn't what I was trying to do, but that's what, that's admittedly where it started. It was just this thing. It had this impact, and I thought it could help other people. I got some very pointed feedback at the beginning. All of it was fair. Things like, throw this back into Mordor where it belongs. You're doing the devil's work. This is necromancy. All the very nice things that people have to say on the internet. But, to be completely honest, I'm so thankful for everyone that gave me that harsh feedback, because what it did was it caused me to kind of take a step back and reassess how I was going about this and what my goals were and why I wanted to do this. And what that led to was me bringing on and taking consult from licensed therapists to put guardrails on it, to make sure we developed it responsibly, and then to give it this tangible form, right? And that's where Worden's 4 tasks and the journaling came into play. Was now we had a methodology. Now we had structure where we can use these journal prompts to walk you through Worden's 4 tasks for mourning, which again, it's an evidence-based framework for dealing with loss, to the point where now there's a roadmap. It's not just this kind of abstract idea of dump somebody into a digital space where they can talk to something that may or may not feel very familiar and potentially do more harm than good. Now we have all of the safety precautions in place to make sure that, we're not putting people in a precarious situation. We're giving them the tools to move forward and kind of take back some of that control in an otherwise extremely chaotic time.
And how do you, like, I love the idea, and just, I have actually something else to tell you, but I want to ask, do you build it around like the person, or is it just like a generic, like your friend? Like how is that? Like, how does that work?
It started as we build it around the person, but we realized too that that's not for everybody. And that is, so we're not trying to disqualify people from this. So I call it a default persona that is grief, call it a grief counselor, that is going to help walk you through that same track or the same progression, but from a different perspective. Whereas on one hand, you're having that dialogue with the presence of the person you've lost, and the questions are going to say, how, what's something that, you couldn't say to me today that you wish you could say to me? Or, since my death, what has changed, right? What roles have you taken on? On the other one, it's just, since the so-and-so's death, how have you changed? And so there's 2 ways, right? So now if you're looking at building it, if you're going to go the persona route, it's form-based. So what we know is that every relationship you have is highly unique. And your relationship with, someone, we could know the same person, and our relationship with them is going to be very different. The things we talk about, the sense of humor, all that stuff. And so trying to like scrape the internet for some, call it objective persona, was just a lesson in futility that wouldn't hit the mark. And that's not what we're looking for as objective. We're looking for a representation of your relationship with so-and-so. We're looking for a relationship for me. And so that's what's going to personalize it. That's what's going to make it familiar to the point where it's going to help you open up, as opposed to like you talk to this, if you were to model something on someone's social media posts, like how distorted of a picture of that person would that be? You know, we're all different on, like, I call it the highlight reel, and that's even on the best days. You know, some of us just only post when we're angry. Some of us only, you know, it's like,
I
and
only
if that's
post like crazy, like wild stuff that gets me in
right,
trouble with people or makes them laugh, or my kid pictures. That's it.
right. And so, like, can you imagine talking to that person? Like, just the, like, so it,
It'd be
like,
in a nut house, man. That person would be in a nut house. Like, you should
right,
see some of this stuff. Don't see some of this stuff.
right. So the point was, it's not about what's on the internet. It's about what lives in here, right?
Yeah.
It's about accessing this, you know, and that is the major nuance between what it started as, like, this idea of talking to the dead. We're not trying to talk to the dead. What we're trying to do is give voice to an experience that already lives inside us, right? We still, when someone dies, the person may die, but the relationship doesn't. And for however many years, we didn't really have an outlet for that. It was just this thing, and, you know, and we do, even without this technology, we've talked to it, you know, hey, mom, I see you there. You see a sign, and, you know, I know you're with me. This is just giving it a different outlet, and one that can respond and then help us to understand what we're feeling and give language to the internal experience where we didn't have it before. You know, for men, we're not taught how to talk about our feelings. Frankly, a lot of us aren't taught we have feelings.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, trying to go, you know, if you're going into therapy for the first time, and then, you know, I experienced this myself. They're like, how are you feeling today? Like, well, I feel like shit. This sucks. I lost my best friend. Like, you know, okay, so what are you feeling? I don't know. I have no idea how to even start talking about this stuff because I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't.
Yeah.
And so when you have this place where you can go and you can start kind of peeling back the layers, and then you can start to understand what you're experiencing, you can start to give language to that and name it, then maybe you can go to therapy and be effective.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you can
it's opening that for you. It's opening that door.
Exactly.
And almost like a teacher teaching you in a safe space without you maybe even feeling judged. Because let's face it, a lot of people like me, when I first went to therapy, I thought this person was just going to sit there and judge me. And I was scared to say whatever the hell you know what I mean? So definitely that gives you in a safe space. You can be in your house. You can fucking be sitting on the shitter and do it. It doesn't matter where, you know what I mean? You want to talk about a safe space? I don't think it gets safer than that. You know what I mean?
Wherever you're most comfortable.
Wherever,
you know?
man. You know what I mean? That's where I do the best scrolling and best posting shit on Facebook. But no, like, all jokes aside, it really does, right? It gives that safe space and no judgment.
Right. And then what you realize, and what I've realized, is you start to build this muscle, this sharing muscle, right? Because the healing lives in the sharing. That is my central thesis. That's what I have come to learn and come to know. When you talk about the people you've lost, you build their own, you get to help their legacy live on. But every time you share that, you heal a little bit. And further, right? When you share, someone else can realize, hey, I thought I was the only person that was feeling like that. Maybe I'm not. And so we start to dispel this idea, this major paradox of grief, where on one hand, everyone's going to experience it. It is truly one of the only universal experiences on this planet. And yet somehow we delude ourselves into thinking nobody could possibly understand what we're feeling at that time. Now, let's be, you know, every situation is different. There's infinite nuance. They're not all the same, but I like to say they rhyme. You know, to think that someone can't understand what it might be like if they haven't lost someone, to lose the person that's closest to them in the world, or one of them, right? How devastating that might be. Well, that's just, we're not correct in the way that we think about that. And when we share it, we realize that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to, before this goes, man, do you think people would use it for, like, even relationships? I know it's kind of weird, and I want to bring this up because it kind of just popped in my head. Or have you experienced this yet? Or, like, people, you know, someone that breaks up with me, they're still alive, you know, but they're grieving in that sense. One just popped in my head, so I wanted to bring this.
And it's a very valid question, because one of the things that I didn't realize, and I think a lot of us don't really give a whole lot of credence to, is the fact that grief is all around us. You know, we grieve when we get married and we don't have the same life, the same freedoms we had before. We grieve when we have kids, when our time's on our own. You know, grief essentially is a response to change. And so what we did, the way that I built this was designed for death. We have since realized that there's more to it, you know, so something like ambiguous grief, which is what a relationship could be depending on the context. But someone's not dead. They're just not in your life in the same way they were before, right? So a relationship ending is essentially a shade of that.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
like if someone spirals into drug addiction and they're not dead, but they're not the same person, or I have a friend that I went to high school with whose brother had a mental break, and he hasn't been around for 10 years now. He's alive, but he's just not in their lives. And so yes, the answer is AI is flexible enough, and I left this open enough where like one of the questions in the forum is, am I alive or deceased? To simply to be able to go down that road.
Okay.
Where
Good.
you can use this as an exercise to help find closure with relationships. You can use it to kind of help, help to, and I don't really like the word closure. I think resolution is a better word, right? Because we're not looking to move, to like close the book. We're just looking to find like peace.
Peace.
And understand in our mind and our heart that, okay, we're moving forward like this.
Some kind of harmony between both
Yeah.
of it, the living and the dead, and
Right.
missing that. Yeah, I understand.
Right.
Definitely.
And so we haven't fully, I would say that there's probably some stones we have left unturned, and there's needs to be a little bit more attention to detail in that track within Guardian Angels. And that is definitely on the to-do list as this grows, and as I'm able to bring on team members and grow, and recognize more revenue and start spending, more significant resources to building this out. That's the idea, is to have very specific tracks built out for really every use case that we can, so that we can help people, not in a general sense, but in a very specific sense, to where, the whole idea here is that we can make incremental progress towards finding ourselves again. Because healing is not it's not a, you all of a sudden have this profound, you're just healed one day, right? Like that's not how it works. It's you slowly find little pieces of yourself along the way, and you start to work things out in your head and in your heart where you could say, now I'm in a place, when you look back, you've come a long way.
Yeah.
But it's not this like, this big, it all happened today for me.
Well, I'm going to ask you kind of a hard question here is, so you have this platform, the guardrails you talked about before, they're in place to stop from people using it more or less as a crutch. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that what they're for? Is like, because I could see too, a lot of people, someone just passing away, and then they use it as almost like an addiction, right? Like, so,
Yep.
and because you were saying guardrails before,
Yep.
right? That's
So-
what those are implemented for.
A number of things. One of the biggest kind of knocks on using this would be the idea that it helps people to avoid accepting the loss, right? Because they can still interact with this quote unquote person. Well, that's where Worden's 4 tasks comes into play. The first task is accepting the loss, right? And so the prompts are designed to get you to accept that loss. So you spend 2 weeks, the first, and our flagship program is 10 weeks long. It's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks worth of prompts, 14 prompts for each task. So the first 14 prompts that you're going to get are different. Are you working on different ideas that are helping you come to terms with accepting the loss? And so it doesn't allow you to sit there and have this conversation with this person as though they're alive, because it refers to its, in the context of death, it's going to refer to itself as deceased, but help you to understand that and accept that.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas,
so it pretty much just teaches you that it's a tool to use to be able to have these conversations, to pretty much heal yourself, and also to have these conversations, with a person that you would like to have a conversation. Like, imagine you're like, oh, I want to talk to my mom today. I miss her. So you pull it up, and then boom, you start talking to your mom. That's what it's like. If I'm wrong, is that that's what it's made for, not for people to just write out a grief and then kind of jump into, if I'm wrong, or if am I right?
You're right in the sense, but we need to be very clear about, we're not talking to the person, right?
Yeah, that's why I want to be clear. Yeah.
It's this idea that the relationship doesn't die.
Yeah.
And this is a representation of what lives inside you. So you're not, what technology does is it reflects back at us what we give it. So it's a reflection of you when you're talking to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Guardian Angels. And so when you're having a conversation, when you're talking to, it's the representation of that relationship that lives inside you.
Yes.
So it's helping you to get clarity on where you stand, and some of the things that were left unsaid and left, it just kind of open-ended.
And I just want to make that clear for the people out there, just so they know, right? Like, it's not you know, like I don't want it to use abuse. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're
Well,
saying, yeah,
look,
yeah,
we're very clear. We're not trying to be in the digital seance space. There are other
yeah,
tools. If you
exactly.
want to do that, there are other ones,
Yeah,
like they're out there. Google them. You can do that where you can have that quote unquote conversation with that person as
mhm,
if they're still alive. You can do that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people. The idea here is to be a bridge between
beautiful.
technology and people and get people to the other side. Because what I've found is there's a lot of beauty when you come to the place of embracing what loss can be, right? I think about it this way. There are 3 people at this point that I've lost that were instrumental in me becoming the person that I am today. And it pains me to know that my son will never meet them in the flesh. But what I do know is that he will know them. He will know them through the stories that I tell him and the lessons that I teach him. And he will know these people are going to have a profound impact on his life and already have. And that's awesome,
Yeah.
right? That is a beautiful thing and a beautiful place to be on the other side of that. And I've had multiple conversations with other people that once you get to the other side of it, you can look back and there's just this immense level of gratitude for the time that you got, for people that are struggling. There's a very simple reframe that helped me to get here. And it's basically, would I rather hurt like this, knowing knowing how deep the relationship that I had was, or would I prefer that relationship to have not been deep and I don't hurt right now? And the answer for me, I can't speak for anyone else, is unequivocal.
Mhm.
The pain was absolutely worth it. I would go through
Yeah.
more, and what happens then is you're immediately placed in this place of gratitude where you're thankful for every moment you got. And you just, you want to share that with the world.
I think it's just beautiful. You know what also that you're doing? I don't know if you realize this, but you're leaving a digital footprint. You know,
Right.
that's what it is, right? It's a digital footprint. And I'm saying even just for your son, when you're not here, you will have all this. He will have all this, like we talked about, you know, and it's like it's the same shit as like when I grew up, man. My mom would have these huge albums. Like I was growing up in the 80s, right? So she had these huge albums, right? And that's what it is, right? But now, I mean, let's face it, it's 2026, right? So everything is online, you know? So that album now is actually interacting with you, and that's what it
Hmm.
is. And
Hmm.
actually is a beautiful thing, man. I really I
Well,
think the idea is awesome. I'm all about AI. I think we were talking before, like I'm AI, I'm huge, and I think it's changing the way. And as long as people are using it the right way and the healthy way, it's gonna be amazing going
right.
forward.
And of course, the pendulum swings, and there's plenty of use cases where people aren't using it healthily, right?
Exactly.
Where it's still very new, and we're going to figure those out. But you brought up a really good point. The idea of memory preservation. When I lost Zach 13 years ago, I didn't have this. And I remember Zach. I remember how it made me feel. I remember the things we did generally, but the clarity of detail is not there in the same way that it is with John and Tim, who I lost much more recently. And had I had this, it would be. I could ask,
Mhm.
I could go in there and we could talk about that time we went to Lake Powell. And it was, the details of what happened. And that would be really, really special because that is one thing that time does do is it fades memories.
Yeah.
And so to be able to go back and have that, like, it's almost like watching a home movie, right? Where
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. Like the
And
black and white, you're sitting it's up on your wall, you're sitting on the old school flower couches, you know, it's like that's
yeah,
cool. You know the flower
yeah,
couch
hell
everybody
yeah.
used to have, man.
Yeah. Well, and I told that to a guy that I was talking to just before Christmas. And he was like, oh, he said, every year, my mom used to make these amazing Christmas cookies. And every year, my siblings and I are calling each other looking for these recipes. And if we could put that in here, every year, basically, we can start a new tradition where we bake mom's cookies with mom in a way.
Mhm.
And, so it's this weird kind of in between space where you're not talking to the person, but you feel close to them. And
Yeah.
that's the special part right there, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't need to make it weird. And it's not this like, where you need to be on acid and trying to communicate with your,
Yeah.
your ancestors in some, like, it's not that, but it is okay to feel close to people. And it's okay to find a way to do that
Mhm.
using the tools that we have.
I like it, man, a lot. I think it's great, and it's just gonna grow. Your idea is gonna grow because, like, you're just scraping the surface because this is new, you know?
Hmm.
I won't get into too much, but I will talk to you a little bit after this about something else. I don't wanna give that space because this is your space. You'll understand later. But I mean, there is, like you said, there is ones out there, and everyone's a little bit different. So I was gonna ask, like, is it just typing, or are you is there voice to it, and are you implementing pictures as well?
Currently, we are chat only, and there's this
Okay.
very specific reason for that. All of the other stuff that you're alluding to, the voice, the avatars, all of that stuff, until we can completely validate that it's safe, the closer we get to realistic or perfectly realistic, runs that risk of getting someone stuck who's not accepting the loss.
Mm-hmm.
That is great if you're looking to do that digital seance thing. That's great if you're trying to like keep them alive in some way. Okay. Not for me, but that's what we're trying to avoid.
Okay.
Is that is a issue with, I have said this from the beginning, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face, and I stand by it. If there ever comes a time when we're doing more harm than good, then this stops, and it stops immediately. And that runs the risk of that slippery slope where we put people in a dangerous position where, they can have a break with reality, or it can hold them back from the healing that we're trying to help them achieve.
Yeah, it's
So
like it's breaking that realistic to AI, the reality, the
right,
AI.
this
I
is
understand that.
ours feels close, but not too close, so that you can
Yeah.
still kind of remain in that in between where you understand where you are. And
Yeah.
there may come a time, so we are not opposed to implementing those down the road. We're going to let other people make the mistakes. We're going to make sure that we can validate that they're safe. And, at that point, maybe it works. Maybe down the road, there comes a time when it's more appropriate. And we will certainly keep our finger on the pulse there to see when that might be, and how we can guarantee safety for people.
Well, and like I said, that totally makes sense, right? And then it keeps that fine line of reality,
Mhm.
in check. Like go touch some grass, kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Do you have? What would you say? Do you have anything like in the future you want to talk about, or anything that you have upcoming that you're excited about, or anything like that?
Right now we're really trying to get people on the platform and source their feedback and see how they're feeling about it, and if it's, how well it's working for them. If you were to consult someone on how to launch a business, I've probably done everything wrong. I know that this can work because it has worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, let's call it spade a spade. It's entirely possible that that's where it ends. I don't think so. I think that there's a lot
It's
here.
not.
Right.
No.
And so the goal right now, we're doing some marketing. I've done some refinements to the platform, and to just kind of helping people understand what we're doing a little more. The messaging here is very difficult because as soon as you mention AI, people have something in their head, and it's
Yeah.
oftentimes it's a boogeyman. And then you put grief into that space, and people are outraged. And so in order to accurately articulate what we're trying to accomplish, I have to beat people there in a meaningful way. To say, I'm not trying to bring people back. I'm not trying to do something that is, sacrilegious. What we're trying to do is root it in science and help bring people along to the point where they can accept and embrace what loss looks like and build a healthy relationship with their grief. That is the goal.
Yeah, healing and leaving a digital imprint, like
Yeah.
you said,
Yeah. And so it's slow going. And I knew it was going to be the whole time. Right.
Yeah.
I knew we were early to this. In a few years, AI will be completely ubiquitous, and something like this won't seem so far fetched. It won't seem like the 1984 or whatever boogeyman Black Mirror story people are telling themselves.
Well, look at these agents right now. You know
Right.
what I mean? That's the whole thing. And in what, maybe a year or so, they're going to be everywhere. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. They already
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just accelerate.
I got one. You know
right.
what I mean? Like, yeah, it's
We've seen this movie before, right? We're afraid of things we don't understand. People did not want electricity in their house. They stuck with kerosene because they thought there were demons in the electricity. We are afraid of things we don't understand. And I think a lot of people don't quite understand how AI works. It looks like it's this all-knowing thing, when in reality, it is simply a very sophisticated statistical probability machine that says what is the probability of the next word in this sequence is this, based on trillions of inputs that came before it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the idea of a neural network, which is what this whole thing is built on, that came about in the 40s. The difference is, in the 40s, we could process hundreds or thousands of pieces of data simultaneously. Now we can process trillions. So it looks much more, science fiction than it really is. But it's math at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, people don't understand. Maybe you can correct me if wrong, but this is my take. This isn't real AI. If you really want to tell about it, it's not like. Pardon me? Am I right?
You're correct.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
people
this is
think of
not
when they
AI.
think, what people think of when they're talking about AI, of something that's actually like sentient, is
Yeah.
artificial general intelligence,
Yeah,
which
this thing
means
would
it
be.
is something. Yeah.
It would be learning. You know, by the time, like, my agent, by the time I go to sleep, like, go to bed, wake up, it knows fucking everything. You know, I mean, you can program that to do that. You know, get
Right.
me wrong, but I mean, AI would do it on its own. I mean, you can
Mhm.
have your agent, obviously, but you still got to program. But I mean, like, the AI would build itself, make it smarter, learn. You know what I mean? iRobot, for example. What we have in this world is not iRobot.
No,
It's just Google on steroids, pretty much, in a
yeah,
sense.
it's
You know what
just
I mean?
patterns. It's pattern
Yeah.
matching, which,
Yeah.
which is funny because as humans, right, we think we're these highly unique beings. And in a lot of ways we are, right? But what we don't realize is how pattern oriented we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why often, the patterns that this thing pulls out are so, to us, unbelievable. Like, how could it know that? Like, well, the idea of you're not that special.
Yeah.
It's just, we are, we do the same things, we make the same mistakes. And so that's all it's doing. And so it's, there's a lot of promise in the technology, when you think about large data pools and the patterns and the ideas that we can pull out of for medical purposes. And I really believe that, the next frontier here is the emotional space. How can we better the human condition using this technology? That's what I'm trying to do. And I think that I'm not alone in that, and there will be many more after me. But I think there's more meat on that bone than there is in the business world.
Well,
It just, realistically, if we can better what it means to be a human, there's so much more benefit there than there ever will be in how much you can automate spreadsheets and whatever else you can do at work.
100 agree. Like, I have my ChatGPT hooked up. When I was a superintendent, I had it hooked up to my work phone, my work computer, plus my home, and it did everything. And it like, if I was walking around taking pictures, I would talk to my like, because I pay for the premium, I can video and talk to it. I walk around, talk to it. It would put everything that I need. If I needed to know, like, what the slope from this here to here, the percentage, I would just ask it. It would do it for me. It makes your life really, like, it makes it lazy, really. But I mean, at the same time, it's makes it faster. You get things done faster at the same time. I've really put it to use. But I want to touch on, and this is just a little secret plug here. I haven't said really anything too much about this. Is like you were saying, a lot of people are using AI, in the mental field, and it's growing. I'm, like we said offline, I'm actually making an app too, and it's my life coaching app. And it's all with AI. I built this whole app with AI. Everything is with AI. My programs, I've done my programs, but everything else is all AI, and it's amazing, And me, as a construction worker by trade, a carpenter by trade, don't know too much about coding and all this. There's a program out there that's helped me be able to do this. That is an AI program, but it's helping me build an AI app, which is crazy. So it's giving these, I wouldn't say small guys, but the people that don't know how to do this, a chance to be able to do this, to put this out there to help people.
Yeah.
So that's So I do want to ask you, though, if Guardian Angel wasn't made, where would you be right now, you think?
That's interesting.
It's a
I
hard
don't know.
one,
I was working in cybersecurity it ended. It was government contracting that ended when Elon was around. I honestly don't know.
That's a fair answer, brother.
Yeah, I've worked in hospitality my whole life. I've worked all over the place. And what I had never found was the purpose that I feel with Guardian Angels. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. I'm a very relationship-oriented person, and that's why I keep going back to hospitality. But I never have found something that was so meaningful, and that was what I was looking for. Maybe.
Why not?
Maybe we'll have to talk about that. It's on the to-do list. But
you know what, man? I will help you, brother. I'm all about paying it forward, man. I've helped probably about 5-6 people now start a podcast, man. So no problem, man. If you ever want to reach out, I got you. No, and it's easy. It's easy, bro.
Okay.
It's easy. The hardest part is just showing up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was looking for something like this, and I guess that it happens organically when you find that purpose. Right. And so I was always looking for something that would make 19-hour days worth it.
Fill your bucket.
Yeah.
Fill your
And
bucket.
found that now. So without it, I truly don't know. I would probably still be looking for it, is
Yeah.
really the short answer there.
Maybe or found it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Found it.
It's
You found
possible.
it once. Why not find it again, right?
It's
You
possible.
never
Yeah.
know. Yeah, brother. Yeah. Well, man, I just want to say thank you. I wanna put this down. Can you one last time give us all your links where people can find you? And also, is there an app or is it just web based right now?
So this is a web application currently. We're not in the app store. It's got plans on that, but I'm a one-man shop right now and building slow and steady. So
Well, maybe I can help you. Maybe I can help you with that. Oh, we'll
maybe.
talk offline.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love that. But yeah, so web application right now, it's optimized for mobile, and I'm sure it could use some work. But the reason for that is I have not taken on any investment, so I don't have anybody telling me we have to over monetize. We don't have to do this. This is about helping people. And so I need to be in control, making sure that, I'm not trying to answer to investors at this point. And so I apologize if the app isn't quite as sleek as it could be. We're getting there. But
okay, man.
we'll never stop until we get there. And then and having someone else, having more cooks in the kitchen wasn't the way to do that. So
yeah. You know, and you know what the beautiful part too, man? Like I see this with Raw Minds myself, is I've seen like the very first episode, and then I seen like the middle part of the episode, and then I see like where I am today. You know what I mean? And that's the beautiful thing about it too, is like you build this thing and you watch it grow, and you figure out what works and what doesn't work. And TikTok here is telling me that I'm not live. Yes, I am. But yeah, so like that's a beautiful part too. You know what I mean? It's like a child. You know what I mean? It really is. And this is what's gonna leave the legacy, and your digital footprint, man. So I just want to say thank you, brother. I want to say thank you. Everybody, you can find all the links in the bio. Check it out. Give it a shot. There is a free try, right on the homepage there.
So you can try a prompt for free, like without even signing up. We do have a 7-day free trial with any subscription you sign up for. So you can sign up and then cancel after 6 days if it's not for you. No harm, no foul. The other thing that I do, sorry,
I was just saying, why not give it a shot, right?
Yeah. The other thing that, I really want people to understand that healing takes consistency and to do that work. And so the other thing that we have is, if you do our 10-week program, in that first 10 weeks, if you do your 80% of your prompts, so if you just show up regularly, I'm going to give you 90 days for free. So, I think when people get on there and they start seeing what happens when you show up every day and you do the work and you look in the mirror and understand that it's not easy, good things happen. And so we want to really foot stomp that and give people the opportunity to see where they can be at the end of 6 months with really attacking this labyrinth of feelings in life that is grief.
It's amazing. And healing too. You know what I mean? There is some healing in there too, man. That's a big part of it. A big part of it,
Absolutely.
So John, I just want to say thank you, man, for coming out here. Thank you for building this. You're going to make your son proud, in the future here too, because he's going to be able to look back and have these conversations with his mom and dad. You know what I mean? In the future. So I just want to say thank you. And everybody, like I said one more time, if you can find, if you want to go check out John's stuff, our Guardian AIngels, and try it for free. 7 days. Was it 7 days you said? Sorry.
Yep. 7 days on the front
7
end.
days free. There you go. Check it out. Links will be in the bio. And what the hell do you got to lose, man? Figure it out. Check it out. Anyways, John, thank you again. Appreciate you, and everybody else on Raw Minds. I appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, brother. Thanks a bunch.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, just hang tight. I gotta